Rob here, and welcome to the third of my videos on building the Tamiya Holiday Buggy on the DT-02 chassis. Today we'll be starting parts bag B, and to start with we'll be making up the front and rear shocks. As you can see, I've already made 3 up. So the front ones are shorter, and as you will notice in the kit, because they're shorter, they've got different springs, so be aware of that. It's a simple case, he says, of taking this piece of rubber tubing, which comes in quite a long length, and you get 2 of them. And down here we've got 1-to-1 diagrams of how much you need for each one. So for the rear one it's the long one, and I just basically line my scissors up, slide it down a bit and cut it off. Oops. And it doesn't need to be that accurate. Typically all the ones I did off camera came out a lot better than that, but hey, there we go. And one thing I've noticed is it's telling you to grease this rubber up. What I've found is that it's quite a tight fit, like so, but I'm not intending to keep them on that long. So for me, I'm going to try something I've not tried before. In the olden days, when these used to come more as standard, and at least aren't those horrible pogo sticks they seem to be supplying now, I did used to grease them up, but I don't think it gave any damping whatsoever. So I think what I'm going to try is, for now anyway, is to not grease them at all. And what you have to do, he says, nearly forgetting again, is you have to install the spring before screwing the end cap on, unlike most of the other oil filled shocks you get. And what I've found is it's easier to just quickly start it and then get a bar or another screwdriver, poke it through the hole, and then you can get the leverage you need just to screw it in. And if we look back at the diagrams, it does show you to screw it in till you can't see any of the thread. I'm not sure you'll be able to see this on the screen, but I will try and angle it so you can as I screw it in, like so. And then I'm going to put the rubber tubing in, and then we can put the cap on, and there is a little notch here, and that lines up with this notch, and because of that it then lines up with the hole for the BA8 3x10mm screw to go in. And there we have the shock, and to be honest, that feels like better damping. I can't honestly say that it'll last long without any grease, because it is quite a tight fit, so like I say, but hopefully at some point I will be getting some oil filled shocks. So that completes step 14, and we can move on. Step 15 is attaching the rear shocks to the damper stay, and attaching the damper stay, which is C2, to the rear gearbox. And I've already started by using 2 of the 4 BB9 step screws that you need for this step. And just an insight, what I found with the first one is it was really hard to screw in. So hard, I don't know if you can see, but it's basically giving me indentations in my finger where I've been holding it. So for the second one, and I'll show you possibly on these 4 here, is I just put a dab of grease in. I'll just show you. So I use an old paintbrush for applying grease most of the time, and what I do is, as you can see, there's very little on it, and I just poke it in and whiz it round like so. Oops. Just to get a very fine coating, and that's all it needs. And then you can wipe the excess off on the outside, and we can simply attach it now using 4 of the BA8 3x10mm screws, and it should just click in place almost. We'll do it this way round, and then we can get one of the screws and pop it in. Okay, so the last part of this step is attaching the rear shocks, and as you can see from this diagram, there are 2 holes to mount the shocks, and I think, I'm just looking at this now, shall we go for the standard, or I think I'll go for the inner one myself, but there's no right or wrong choice, just my preference. It gives slightly more travel, shall we say. So I think what I'll do is I'll put this one on, and hopefully we can see the difference if I put this one on the outer one for you. And hopefully you can see, if I try and get it level, that this side on the inner hole, the lower wishbone sits lower than this side. So I'll get on with that, and we can move on to the front end. Step 16, attaching the front dampers, is similar for the top, but quite a bit different for the bottom, in that we've got these 2 BA14s, which are brass tubes. There we go, if you can just see that. And there is a note there saying to grease them, but it's going to be run off-road and you're going to get dust and grit in it, so personally I'm not going to. The top mounting points are again this rather hard plastic, so I think just to be on the safe side, I'm going to start off by sticking a bit of grease in those holes there, just to make it slightly easier to screw in. And the other thing I've just noticed is they're telling you to install them upside down. So, and they also have to go through this hole in the A-arm. So I think we'll just get on with that bit first, get them both installed, and try and show you how I do the bottom. Okay, after doing this one side, I think it would be easier to install the bottom first, but because I've done the top first, I'll try and show you how I went about it. And oh, it's fell out, and it's not a massively tight fit, and it does tell you to put it through the centre holes, and I've missed. But yes, it's not the easiest thing to get right, and I've got to be honest and say it's not the easiest thing to do first either. So if you are new to doing this, it might be worth putting some grease on just to hold that bushing in place, and then it's just a case of wiggling stuff around as best you can, and it never goes very well on camera. I don't know why, so maybe we'll just yeah, there we go, finally get it in. And there we have step 16 done. Step 17 is attaching the battery holder or cover, and it's the first time we get to stick something on the chassis, and I've already started this by cutting out some of this sponge tape, as they call it, I think, and sticking it there where the servo saver is going to go. This again is 1:1, so you should just be able to cut it out. It only needs the one cut, and it goes there, as you can see. So that's all done, and we also need this M8, 2 D3s and 1 D4 to hold it all, and 4 screws to screw it all together. So this R-clip holder goes there with the 2 screws, and then we've got these 2 D3s, which, looking at it, they go on these posts here and screw in. So you can screw the first one in like so, and then you need to get the battery cover, and there is a certain way round this goes. You've got these sticky out bits, droppy bits, and they have to go on the underside, and it should just slide in, and then obviously you can slide the other D3 over and position that ready for the screw, and screw it all in like so. And then we've got an R-clip that will go through to hold it all together, so I'll get those screwed up and be back to you shortly. Step 18 is all to do with basically wiring up the RC electronics, and what you normally end up with is some kind of receiver, normally 2-channel, as in this case. This is one of the original Acom's 27 megahertz analog 2-channel receivers, and for now this what the hell is it now, I can't remember, M-Tronics Sport Turbo 20 brushed ESC. So ignoring all of that, we can swiftly move on to step 19, and again some of this is going to depend on what servo you go for. That one I've got, because it's metal gears, I'm using the P5 Futaba Tamiya mount, and these other ones are standard, you'll use for whatever servo you've got. And then what we need to do is we need to put these ball joints on, check the orientation, and we need to pop a ball joint through there, and it does kind of screw up, but annoyingly it's a flat screw, so it should just really push through, because the thread doesn't go all the way through. So just to help it on its way, I give it a turn anyway. And once it's through, we then need these tiny little B11s, which are 2mm nylock nuts, which can go on like so. Like that. And then according to this step we need to put it all together. And we can move on to step 20. And step 20 is basically attaching this servo saver to the servo, which requires you to centre the servo as best you can, which I have already done, and I have gone through other in the past. But one thing you will need is P1, which is like a plastic washer, and then depending again on the servo, it's going to depend on what screw you need. And for mine, I need the BB6 3x10mm. And that looks a bit longer than 10mm, but it's the only one that fits in my bits and pieces from parts bag B, so I'll be using that one. And it should just be a case of, from this diagram here, you need to get this as vertical as possible. But especially with these Acons, that's about as close as I've ever managed to get. The servo saver, and then we need to screw it up. And from experience, if I'd got a decent servo, I would have put some thread lock on this, because I have had lots come off, come undone. And that's step 20, and we can move on to step 21. Step 21 is prepping the servo to be installed, and also the on-off switch with the dust cover. So we've got M4, BB3 and M3s, and again, I think a lot of this is going to depend on what electronic speed controller you've got. God, I couldn't think of that then. I'm getting worse, folks. So what we do is we take M4, and we need two of these BB8 and BB13s, which are 2mm washers and screws, and we take one through and drop it there. We then take the dust cover and we can pop that through, and because I've already tried this, and I don't know if you can see, but the actual switch itself is quite deep, so I am going to use this spacer. If it's not quite so deep, then you might get away without needing the spacer, and I think I'll do it that way around, I don't know why. And then we take one of our smaller screwdrivers. Oh good, that's gone in. And there you end up with somewhat of a dust-proof on-off switch. Yeah, it does work. And then for the servo itself we need 2 of these D5s, and looking at the orientation we go with the solid part because there's a slot cut in the other side, so we've got this solid part facing out, and we need the usual BA8 10mm self-tapper and BB12 which is 3mm washer, and we can screw those in. Too bad, so maybe don't over tighten those. Now I can just do the other one and carry on to the next step, I think. Well, it appears that that was the end of bag B, so I think I will call an end to it. So that's the kind of thing you should end up with for your servo, ready to be installed in, but it's going to be a couple of steps on, I think, or at least one step on. So like I say, I'll leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed this and look forward to seeing you for parts bag C. Thanks for watching. Bye!